Hi guys, welcome back to Crossman Productions. Man, guys, it's been a while. We haven't gotten to talk for about maybe 1 or 2 weeks since we had Anthony Babyface on. So I'm glad to be back, and not only glad to be back, but I'm glad to have my next guest on. We talk a lot about female athletes in these sports like of UFC, power slap, bare knuckle fighting. So you know I'm excited about how these women's divisions are growing in these sports. So I actually have one of those women on the show, Britain Hart, who is a boxer and bare knuckle fighter. She's actually a world champion bare knuckle fighter. So we're gonna bring her on and kind of get to know her and her story, and you know, kind of talk to her about what got her into boxing and bare knuckle fighting because bare knuckle fighting that's a tough sport in itself. So we have Jr. to come on the show all the time and talk to him about it. So I'm excited about having Britain come on. So welcome to the show,
Hey,
Britain.
what's up?
Like I said, man, I'm excited about having you on because we talk a lot. We have the guys on all the time. UFC, you know, power slap, bare knuckle, and we talk a lot. A lot of us, the guys, we talk about how much the women's divisions are growing in these combat sports. So, to bring you in and have you come on and kind of share your story, I'm really excited about it. So, I just wanted to thank you for coming on, and then we'll kind of get started. Kind of show our audience kind of where you were born and raised, and what was life like for Britain growing up.
Well, I was born in Utah, which is crazy. I don't think a lot of people would really guess that. But I
Yeah.
was born in Utah. I was born on an Air Force base.
Okay.
So I was definitely military brat growing up, which has its own, if you know, you know, with the
Yep.
challenges. So we moved to Turkey from when I was 3 to 6. I lived on base there. Then we moved to Germany, where my family chose to live off base. So we actually lived in a German town in Kaiserslautern from like 5 to 11.
Well,
And then I moved back to the United States and was in the United States in Virginia and ended up just kind of like my dad retired. He did full 20 years. So that's where he kind of retired. And
right.
then after that, kind of crazy to like wrap it in and a lot of my like fighting experience and the doors that have opened and connected me from being a military dependent military brat
Right.
is fighters kind of go through the same thing that a lot of military people go or vice versa military
Right.
families go through a lot and life after fighting military sports is a lot of the same mental anguish and obstacles and it's very very challenging and hard and it's kind of crazy full circle because really I felt like that was a big thing that impacted my family when I was younger
Right.
and so now I think it kind of made me like more of an angry, rebellious teenager. So I
Right.
had that past life, and then
Yeah.
it just obviously didn't, But anyways, but
Yeah.
now seeing it for what it is, it's like wow, here I am, struggling with that like same concept but because I know and I've had the training and teaching and counseling and support of so many people and there's more advocates out there I've been
Right.
able to manage it a lot better than some of the people who didn't really have this knowledge 10, 20 years ago.
Right. No, you don't. You've been hitting the podcast circuit a little bit. So I've been able to sit down and listen to some of the other podcasters interviewing. One of the things that you brought up that I thought was interesting was being in an abusive relationship. I guess you're kind of a victim of domestic violence. Would you? Because I know that there's a lot of women out there that face that kind of you know challenge, I guess, in life. For you to go from that to where you're at, can you kind of share like a little bit of that story, and then how that brought you into boxing and
That's the main reason, honestly.
Yeah,
If that didn't happen to me, I would have never gone to boxing ever. So
yeah,
it's kind of crazy and wild when you think of it that way. And it was really um something that definitely made me bare knuckle tough, that's for sure, because I remember
yeah,
comparing those lives. Again, way different back then, being raised military, a lot of it's don't ask, don't tell, and like sweep things under the rug.
right,
So it was kind of like a really weird place to be. A lot of people that were around me in my inner circle obviously knew what was happening, and it was just, man, I'm telling you, what a nightmare of a life. And that's really what made me prone and perfect for boxing and bare knuckle, because anything in that ring is better
right,
than that life. Like, seriously crazy to say, getting punched bare knuckle 2 minutes with a
right,
referee from a girl that's relatively maybe like at most 25 pounds bigger than me is
right,
way better than a 185-pound man beating you up in your
right,
home and holding you down and choking you where you think you might not let go. It's a
right,
better than being out by an ambulance and then your whole family and turning their back against you and making you go like to counseling, being in a domestic violence shelter where you're not able to call or contact anyone for 6 weeks. Like, everything is such a blessing when I
right,
look back to that part and chapter of my life. But I
right,
do remember my first boxing fight. Literally, I was only in the gym 4 months. It was kind of one of those weird jokes like, well, you should go to a boxing gym. And it was a friend that pushed me to do it without
right,
them, and they didn't even really push me. They just kind of messaged me a couple times saying to
right,
do it. And it was just one of those fuck it moments. Like, I have nothing else in my life. Like, I'm so rock bottom. It can't, like, fucking, I don't know. It was weird. It was like I
right,
was looking for that, like, way out, like, because everything just hurt. And
right,
so, boxing and being in there, I didn't think about my real life hurting. It was like the one moment reality went away, and it was like, oh no, focus on what's going in here,
right,
inside the rope and the rings. And that just really kind of stayed with me and carried me. Loving it though, and
right,
seeing, someone again going through an abusive relationship, I feel like that's really another reason why
okay,
boxing and the fight world was so important for me,
mhm,
because I was missing a really big component of love and self-worth and self-value. So after my fight, people are like, oh, taking pictures, wow, great job, you're
right,
so awesome, oh, how do you fight, you're so beautiful. And like,
right,
to me, that was like, I mean, I could cry like thinking about it, that
right,
no one had any idea back then, but I
right,
needed that. Like, I needed that love and support. And it was a total
right,
stranger who probably has no idea what my home life is. But just the fact that they would want to say I was beautiful, or
right,
that I was such a badass, for that moment, it really was like, man, this is where I need to be. And it really did. Like, now, flashback, or flash forward 8 years, unbelievable. It really is. It's unbelievable. And it's the reason why I sometimes like get caught up in it, because I want to tell people how much that changed my life and made a difference. And
right,
then it also gets to a point where, a fine line where you don't want to play victim. You want to let the past go. Like, I'm not that girl or not that person anymore. And
right.
that's a weird, like, that's my newer struggle here in the last, you know, 2 or 3 years. Been really struggling with, what do I do with that?
Right. Do you remember like a specific time, or that particular time that because you said you were at rock bottom. What kind of got you over that, to want to change, what you were going through? Do you remember like anything that like triggered it and made you want to, get out of that lifestyle and do something different?
Um, I do. I do remember one moment.
Mhm.
I probably will have to like. I remember one moment where it was pretty bad, and
Right,
I remember looking down in the sink and being like, trying to get myself out of a situation, right?
Right.
Because I, again, so rock bottom, and I was just trying to get myself out, but I was like one foot in, one foot out. Like I didn't
Right.
know how to get myself out of the situation, but I was like trying to cope with all the pain and all the stuff about that. So
Right.
I remember looking down in the sink, one of the standout memories, and I was like, I can't believe you even thought about doing what I was about to do. And
Mm.
I was like, that to me was my wake up call. Like the fact that
Right.
I even thought it. I didn't do it, thank God, because that was
Right.
like a whole new low. But the fact that I even thought about doing what I was going to do was
Mm.
like, yo, what is wrong with you? Like, where have you like gone out with your life? You're disgusting. Like it was just,
Right.
it was a terrible moment. But
Right.
I didn't choose to do it, thank God. And was like, that was it for me. Like, that was my rock bottom, contemplating doing something so fucking gross that I was like, whoa, like snap out of it. And so I didn't. I took a different route
Right.
and just accepted some of the consequences that came my way because of that, and was just like, dude, get yourself out of this. And I really changed like a mental in that moment, where I
Right.
was just do the right thing. And that's kind of what shifted my life, was just like every day I was like, as long as you're doing the right thing or what you
Right.
feel is right, you'll be okay. So I went through that for a year. I was like straight and narrow, man, like really, really straight and narrow for a whole year. And
Right.
after I was able to like kind of, it was an awful year. I'm not gonna lie. I tell people like in my whole life I've been sober probably. I went 1 year sober and then
Mhm.
2 years completely sober, and I hated it. It was the worst fucking time ever. Like I'm not gonna lie and say it made me.
Right.
It was horrible. I hated it, but it allowed me to stay focused. It allowed me to hustle. It allowed me to work. It allowed no distraction in my life, and I was really rigid. And I do remember there was moments in time when people would be like, Britton, you want to do this? Britton, you want to do that? And I was like, no, I'm working. No, I'm in the gym. No, I'm this. To the point where people would be like, hey, Britton, you want to. Oh, yeah, that's right. You're working or in the gym.
Right.
So, because I had that dedication and crunch time, now, it's totally different story. I'm able to manage my stress and not, necessarily hit rock bottom. Although
Right.
there are times where we like relapse because we're humans and it's
Right.
natural to have those kind of setbacks. But they're not like there'd be days. I mean, I'm telling you, there was months of my life that I just wasted and put down the drain
Right.
from situations where now, instead of being out for months or weeks, I'm out for like a day or hours. Like it takes me,
Right.
which is still pretty good and growth in my life, but I
Right.
remember certain situations and just derailing me for months or weeks at time.
Right.
So, but yeah, it was that, that moment and just realization, just being like, I don't have the time to fuck up. I'm so behind in everything that
Right.
I literally need to cut out every distraction. And I did. And so here we are.
Right. And going through all that, and then finally be able to make that decision to change. I mean, you've done a lot now. I mean, you started in boxing. You became the world champion. Bare knuckle fighting. Yeah. We're going to talk about some of those fights too, because you fought some really big opponents. And then you've done some acting. You have a documentary out, and now you're dabbling a little bit in music. You have we'll talk about Warrior Shield. Some of the stuff you've done. So you're doing really well now. So um, you know, congratulations on being able to get yourself out of that, and be successful in so many different areas. So you know, it- let me ask you this: if you right now could tell your younger self a piece of advice, what would you tell? What would you have told yourself?
Man, this is so wild. I literally was having such a heartfelt conversation yesterday about the same thing. And I was like, man, I was trying to give them advice. And I said, man, I could go back to
Yeah.
younger me I would literally shake her and be like, don't worry about any of it. Don't worry what they say. Don't worry what they tell you. It's not worth it. Whatever is going to happen is
Right.
going to happen. And I would stress that myself, like, so big, like, and everyone, like, no one's going to understand and get it besides you. And
Right.
that's your superpower and magic power. But I remember way back in the day before this whole 2016 stuff happened, I got
Yeah.
this awesome job. I was getting a degree in sport management, and I got offered a job with, at the time it was the Charlotte Bobcats, but we know
Oh,
them
wow.
today as Charlotte
Mhm.
Hornets.
Yeah.
And I mean, I went through like 3 interviews for that
Right.
job. I really wanted it, and it was like an $80,000 salary. It was such an awesome job. It was going to be the coolest, like my dream life, like at that
Right.
time.
Right.
And so I went to accept the job, and then my son's father filed for custody. I freaked out and was like, man, I got a lawyer. And my lawyer was like, you can't take this job. You'll lose custody. I'm like,
Wow.
what? I'm just a waitress. Like, I'm just a bartender around here. It's like, it's a hard life. It's not a great life. It's long
Yeah.
hours. And, I got this degree in sport management. This is using it. This is everything I wanted. There's no cool jobs around here in Virginia that are
Right.
like maximizing that degree. And she goes, it doesn't matter. You'll lose custody, blah, blah, blah.
Wow.
So again, I would go back to younger me and say, fuck that. Go and take that job and try it. And instead, I was worried what she thought. I
Right.
ended up taking the job. And look what happened. I stayed in, Virginia with no opportunity. They have nothing better to do than, and not everybody, but
Yeah.
the circles that you get caught up in,
Yeah.
and small towns are the worst in that aspect. There's a lot of drug problems. I got involved with someone who had a huge drug problem,
Mm.
and even though necessarily, I didn't do it, but I was guilty by association. If everyone I was around was doing drugs, then
Right.
what was I doing, And
Right.
so, anyways, that's how. So then I go from getting a job at the Charlotte Bobcats to not staying there for my son, where I get in this relationship where I'm around just the worst shit possible. And then
Right.
I getting beat and abused. And then I'm struggling with money. I max out 5 different credit cards. I have
Right.
lawyer bills up to here trying to dig myself out. I lost like $30,000 in lawyer fees, which
Wow.
every lawyer fucking screwed me over and just
Right.
took my money because I was just literally freaking out. And then bam, what happened? What happened? What good did all that do? I lost money. I lost pieces of my soul. I lost
Yeah.
myself. I lost my identity
Right.
for all that. And I thought, a lot of people don't get that. I thought I was doing anything for my kid and staying there. And
Right.
what kind of life would that have been for my son to see his mom grow up getting beat, it's only a matter of time before I say, fuck it, let me do this too.
Right.
Alcohol, trying to cope with what was going on. Well, you can drink
Right.
and it's legal, so you don't feel too bad about it,
Right.
and it was getting to a point where that was the only time I could enjoy my life is if I was drinking.
Yeah.
So really, who was winning and losing and doing what at the end of the day? So if I
Yeah.
could go back and tell younger me, I would have said fucking, and I would have never been a fighter, would have never been a world champion if I would have
Yeah.
done that. So there is that, there is the silver lining, but
Right.
I've said it on so many advice, like where I tell myself today,
Yeah.
what about people think about this? Well, someone says I shouldn't do this. Someone says I should do this. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You have to follow what you want and
Yeah.
what's not going to stress you out. And you don't have to explain it to anyone because people don't see that stuff and don't understand
Right.
the sacrifices and the things that you make behind closed door or what the other option was. When
Right.
you're looking at it right now, that was for me. People can talk shit about me and my mothering skills and abilities all they want, not
Right.
knowing that those kids were my freaking world
Right.
and they still are. But I mean, like, eat, breathe, and sleep them every day. So when they were like in the middle of this, it was really one of the worst things ever, where their mother could probably end up dead.
Right.
I did right now is my kids can call me and FaceTime me anytime they want. They love me and support me more than anything. And it's a whole lot better than not having, a kid that says, "Man, I wonder if my mom was here, what
Right.
she would say." And people don't see that. And so I
Right.
would tell any version of anyone going out there that's struggling with that, if you're making the right decision and doing it out of success, kindness, love,
Right.
anything that's positive. Obviously, if you're doing something out of hate and revenge and stuff like
Right.
that, I wouldn't encourage you to necessarily follow that road.
Right.
There's a time and place for it. But yeah, if you're doing something that you think is best for you,
Right.
do it, and don't you even worry about anything, because it will happen the way it's supposed to happen.
Right. Now,
Sorry.
when you finally, were able to, kind of switch things around, and you got got into boxing and bare knuckle, do you remember your first fight, and what kind of opened the door for that, and what was that first fight like for you?
My first boxing fight or bare
Yeah,
knuckle?
your first boxing, when you first, started to get into, embracing boxing, and
I'll never forget it. It was like seriously the second most important day of my life.
mm,
And I still say that and preach that. Again, I love my children so much, and it was
right,
such a blessing they're in the world. But I really firmly believe the two most important days are the day you were born and the
right,
day you find out why. And
right,
my first fight in Charlotte, North Carolina, October 2016,
right,
I knew why I like literally why I was there. It was such an unreal feeling. Like, this is it.
right,
This was what I was meant to do. And it was exactly that feeling. I had only been in a boxing gym 4 months up to that fight.
right,
And the only reason why I really fought is because someone at the time kind of got into my head and said, one, again, I was having horrible money problems. I didn't have
right,
any money. And so I feel like they really kind of saw me as like, which I'm, thankful for it, because, joke's on them. But I kind of think they saw me as like a very vulnerable, desperate female. And they knew that, the one to women are hard to find that are willing
right,
and ready to go in there. So I think that was their goal with me, that I was a desperate, beat up, battered, you
mm,
know, I had like court fees out the yin yang, and needed
right,
money. So they were like, they knew my story. So they were like, well, you could really change and help inspire women. And you're so tough and you're a great fighter. And you learn, which all that stuff is true,
right,
whether they really meant it or not. Because the third fight, they put me against Alicia Baumgardner, telling
uh,
me that that I had more experience than her. But
right,
anyways, so yeah, they were like, you could do that, and I think you're ready now, and you need money, so let's give you a fight. And I'm
right,
like, don't to be a professional fighter, don't you have to do this for like a while? Don't you have to have like an amateur background? Don't you have to have some type of credential or something to
right,
be a pro fighter? They're like,
right,
nope, you just have to have my signature, and
uh,
you're ready. And I was like, fuck it. So went out there and did that fight. Didn't even really care, because I was just kind of like, needing the money. Which at the end of the
yeah,
day, it was horrible, because I got like $1 from that fight, and was like,
wow,
why did I just get $1?
yeah,
Like $1. And they're like, well, da da da. We had to take, this was my cut for training you and coaching
yeah,
you, and blah blah blah. And so I was like, all right. So then there was a second fight, and I think I got like $300, which was better than $1.
right,
So,
right,
and then and then they kept going up after that a little, but it was still like, geez,
right,
when you think about it, back in the day, fighting Alicia Baumgardner for that little money
right.
going back, but
For
it
a
big
dollar,
difference.
that's crazy.
Yeah,
Man,
but I
yeah,
still knew I wanted to do it. It's still like,
yeah,
even if there's just the $1, it felt like I was doing it what enticed me to go pro and get my license was this was a way to make money.
Right.
And then even after the first fight, not getting, just getting $1, I was like, wow. But I really didn't really focus on it that much. Now I can look back on it and be like, yo, what the fuck? Like,
Right.
blah, blah, blah. I could say so much on that, which I didn't know, but I just have to chop it up to like, hey, you were naive, you were vulnerable, you didn't know shit about the game. That's life, that's business. People take advantage of people like that, and it's not
Right.
personal. It's just what people do. It's not my
Mm.
problem to diagnose what mental problems or fucked up problems they have, but just to keep
Right.
it going.
Right. And so, doing that led you into bare knuckle. So boxing's tough enough. What made you decide to go bare knuckle fighting?
Yeah, kind of the same thing. I was really determined. I made some real enemies.
Right.
So, wildly enough in my boxing career. And
Mm.
so getting away from that was, again, what a challenge. But
Right.
nothing's, I've been battle tested. Like I had to try to get away from, an abusive relationship, so much other
Right.
worse things that, are just buried and in the past. But if I could get away from that, sure, I can get away from somebody trying to sabotage and
Right.
blacklist me on boxing. So I just navigated myself and kept going to gyms that would, that felt right and didn't feel like they had all the drama or bullshit and really cared. And, I had
Right.
to prove myself there, and I did. And so it was hard though. I didn't have any money. I was sleeping out of my car just to make, like, I couldn't afford anything. So I was really, really trying that way. I lived in places that are really, again, ironically, I'm trying to get away from drugs and abuse, and I just would, everywhere I would go, it was like it followed me. I'd be
Right.
like, oh my god, Jesus, it's everywhere, and I was,
Right.
very like a kind of like a gullible, naive person. I mean, I still have a hint of that, because it's just
Right.
easier. It's just easier to think everyone is a good person and means
Right.
well. It's exhausting to carry around and be fearful and oh my
Mm.
god, how person gonna hurt me or what they're gonna do. It's just exhausting. It's fucking exhausting. So
Right.
I would just go to these places and then be like, oh, of course
Right.
this is gonna be here. But I just, I pretend like I didn't see it and just kept moving, and I was like really focused on the boxing aspect, but I
Right.
wouldn't stay long, So it was what I had to do because I didn't have the money to afford hotels or Airbnbs. So those are typically the places you end up being. But
Right.
I learned a lot from people like that too, which is why I think that's part of my story and journey, which makes me super great. I
Right.
can literally go and hang out with anyone and relate and get to them and not judge
Right.
them or be worried about it or honestly, I had people that were like lawyers and doctors that did some really shitty, horrible things
Right.
and pieces of shit and wouldn't help you. And I've seen people that don't have any money. Yeah, they do drugs and drink alcohol too, but man, they'll give you the shirt off your back and they'll
Right.
help you ride or die. So
Right.
the world is funny like that. You got to live through those experiences. And so I
Right.
definitely did. And it taught me a lot about the world and about people and about
Right.
myself. So that was really cool. But, anyways, I needed money. So going
Right.
out to California, I thought had like all the answers. Like, California for me
Right.
was every single like solution to all my problems. And you need money. So I wanted to buy a sailboat and just like live on a sailboat and like so
Right.
I didn't have to carry the boat. I just have a sleeping bag. The weather's pretty cool. And I would just
Right.
wake up and hustle every day and go to the gym in California. That was my whole game plan. So
Wow.
I just needed a good chunk of money to do it. And Bare
Yeah.
Knuckle was offering that money to do it. And so at first I was like, nah, fuck that. And
Yeah.
then I know David Feldman, and I really like him and known him from boxing, and was like really identified with something that he said to me, and it really put the light bulb in my head. It made me go from nah, I'm not doing that to you know what? Maybe I can do this. Maybe
Right.
maybe I am made for this. And sure enough, you know, and not only was I on the second bare knuckle, I was the main event for that
Right.
fight. And it was a hell of a fight. I still think and know that I won. It was a split decision, but still, I
Right.
was a nobody. I felt like very Hunger Game-ish, even though I didn't like technically win on paper. I
Right.
went in there, no money, no training. I went to the YMCA, was running myself, didn't have I had a coach, but not a traditional coach. He was great and filled in, but he works like 60 hours a week,
Wow.
and fit me in like maybe 2 45-minute sessions a week,
Wow.
and that was the bare minimum, and but also the maximum that he could do and give to me. So I had to be grateful, and I am very grateful for that. But it was, literally, could you imagine me going like right now into Dubai fighting Ty Emery and
Right.
only working with a boxing coach 2 45-minute sessions? Like,
Right.
that's wild. But that's what I did for Beck Rawlings, and it turned out, it was a pretty damn good fight. So there's that. But I did go to California, and I
Right.
loved California, and it was again, it was exactly that manifested. Even though I didn't stay there, the time that I was there, it
Right.
forever grew me and changed my life. It rewired my mind and gave me so many answers to questions that I had been like looking for a really long time, and I still
Right.
use them this day.
Wow. And then you're going into your bare knuckle, not having the experience, not having the coaching. I mean, you've had some really great fights. We talked about your fight with Paige Van Zant and Christina Ferreira. I saw the one with Kim Savage. You know, so I mean, you've had some really tough fights. I know you probably get asked this a million times, but of all the fights you had, who was the toughest opponent that you faced?
Oh, definitely. I would say Christine Ferreira.
Right.
Not the first time. The first time, I honestly just like I roll that fight. It,
Right.
and kind of funny, which is cool. I think she can respect that and stuff. But at the time,
Right.
she wasn't predicted to win. I was predicted to win. Like, it was a wild turnaround of events. So
Right.
just to see her go, I mean, I really feel like that kind of projected her. And then the other fight during COVID really gave Christine some momentum. But that's what we're
Right.
all there to do. You can't have one without the other. But that fight was some bullshit fight. It was just an unlucky. The cut was right in his eyelid.
Yeah.
And I was going, whatever, still figuring out some mental bullshit. I actually had like this crazy allergic reaction too. You could see in the way, and I had like hives all over my face,
Right.
and like this big swelling on my forehead. I still don't know what that's about, but it's happened twice in my life. But the
Wow.
first time it happened, my tongue swelled up, so I went into anaphylactic shock. And so
Oh
when I
wow.
was fighting Christine for that, the first time I was like, oh my god, I'm gonna go, like, I'm gonna fucking stop breathing. I didn't want to go to the doctor because I didn't
Right.
want the fight to be called. Blah blah blah. But the second fight, definitely the hardest fight. I
Mm.
mean, really overall, yeah, it was, and so many reasons why, just
Yeah.
lessons, mental lessons, but it was tough. It was tough for sure. um so I would probably give that being my toughest opponent. And I didn't figure it out, and I should have. I had every belief. I think that's what hurts the most, with
Right.
all the excuses and things I could say that I thought went wrong. I definitely have a list of them,
Right.
but at the end of the day, I really believed I was going to win that fight. Really did, and I
Right.
didn't. So that was a really, really weird, tough pill to swallow.
Mm.
Being like, man, I really, like, I wasn't fearful. I wasn't scared. I didn't
Right.
feel underprepared. So to not execute that fight, and then to come out with, the damage that I had, and
Right.
the what I felt like after the fight was, I've never really felt that way.
Right.
Honestly, the saving grace to that fight, I can't believe I didn't get more fucked up, be
Mm.
like mentally after that fight.
Right.
But I think I had some really good people in my corner. But really, the saving thing was the 115 class opening up. If that
Oh.
115 class didn't open up, I don't know
Right.
what would happen. So that was like my motivation to get out and just be, not really dwell on that Christine fight.
Right. So I have two questions. Um, one of the things I'm really impressed about is your reach. Because when you're boxing, you can keep people at bay. You know what I mean? You did really well with that both with Christina and with Paige. You know, and Kim. I mean, your league. What is your wingspan?
66.
56. Because you have a great reach. And the other thing too, I was impressed about is your jab. Um, yeah, you have a pretty powerful jab. So no, we'll go back to the Christina fight. When you go into a fight thinking that you're the projected winner of that fight. Everybody's predicting you're going to be the winner, and you lose. How do you mentally come back from that so that your next fight you're not carrying that weight into the next fight?
Yeah, that's what I was saying. It was fucking hard. It was hard. I think if you haven't been there, I really do think, even though it's like super cliche, but man,
Yeah,
I'm telling you, there is so much power in some of these quotes and motivational things out there that
yeah,
are floating around. But one was dang, where was I going with it? Oh, there's no such thing as losses. It's only lessons.
right.
So for me, I really feel like, I think I've said at one point, like I really honestly failed my way to greatness. Like
Mm,
I've done some really great things in my life, but I've
right.
failed miserably at a lot of things. But
Mm,
because I didn't give up, I learned so much from that failure, like probably like even more than the
right.
wins. And I remember, so for Christine fight, it wasn't so bad because in my boxing career, I remember one specific fight that forever changed me. And I took this fight,
Mm,
and it was a hometown girl in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. I was living in Virginia. I went up there. During my camp, I was messing around and fucking around with somebody, and we were wrestling, and I hit my foot on the corner of the wall and literally broke and shattered my pinky toe,
wow.
which you can't do nothing about. But I did that during my fight camp. But I didn't want to pull out of the fight. I knew I could beat the girl, and I was like, dude, I'll find a way to like, work around a broken pinky toe. But I really
Yeah,
couldn't play really that great on that my back foot. So it was my right
yeah,
foot. I couldn't plant really good to throw those punches, but I still went through camp and sucked it up and went to the fight, and I still think I won, but it
yeah,
was ruled a draw. But I could see why, I definitely didn't do as great as I could have because I wasn't really planting on
right,
that back foot because of the injury that I had. But
right,
I definitely still feel like I won. But again, the politics of boxing,
right.
blah blah blah. They gave us a draw. So I remember they're having this big after party, and I was just like
Mhm.
pouting, right? And then I
Right,
look over at this girl who also got a draw, so the same exact outcome I did. And she
right,
was like, hey,
mm,
she was all hopping around and dancing and so happy.
right,
Like she was thrilled. And before, I think she was like, 0-3. She had only fought the good fighters, so she wasn't a bad fighter. She
right,
fought like Hardy and Shelly Vincent, which were like the top names of women boxing back
right,
then. And then so to get a draw with me, I guess really was like, a huge success for her. But
right.
she was just dancing and so happy. And here I am, like, really upset. I didn't enjoy it. And I remember thinking that day, I said, you know what? I don't want to be who I am. I want to be
Right,
that girl. Like, I want to be jumping up and dancing,
right,
and that's what I'm gonna do. I shouldn't, it sucks. We got to go back to the lab and find out why we didn't do so good, but
right,
don't sit in it because not everyone does that, and
right,
don't do that. And so after every fight, I remember I put it into action like so many times.
right.
I'm so proud. Like, remember in Dallas, like Dallas was one of my favorite fights. I freaking lost.
Right.
And I know I won that fight, but it's in Texas, which is like the state of highway robbery for boxing. And my
Mhm.
coach was like so mad. She was like, fuck you guys. Do you not see? Are you blind? And she's like,
Uh,
out. And I'm just like, Look, coach, like everywhere you looked was posters of this girl everywhere. Like
Yeah,
po- poster. Her face was plastered everywhere. I'm like, that's why she won. We won. And, it's cool. And I had,
right,
like, it wasn't, obviously a draw is better. They should at least gain a draw. Like, fuck them.
right,
But who cares? At the end of the day, who cares?
right,
Whatever. You can't change it. So, what a cool lesson. Well, Christine, like I said, it was a little bit harder in that fight
yeah,
because it was the title fight.
yeah,
One, there was a ton of damage too.
right,
And, man, I wanted that more than anything. But thank God, I don't really remember, honestly. I remember crying blood for like a month
wow,
and being like, yo, this fucking sucks. Like,
yeah,
I was just literally crying blood. But probably with my family in California,
right,
thank God I had them because I think I had to keep it together because I love and like adore my family in California so much that if I was at like Virginia or somewhere else, I
right,
would have I would start drinking or be depressed or isolate myself and be locked up. But because
right,
I was in California living with my family, I had to like kind of carry that, like, it's okay, like, I'm fine. I'm just,
right,
blood and my face is swollen and we didn't win. Don't worry, we'll get them next time. I definitely did not feel that inside, but because I had to put
right,
on that face for my family, I think it really helped. I think
right.
it helped me get over that loss.
So, I like what you said too. There's no such thing as losses; it's lessons. You know what I mean? And so that's a great way to look at things too. So now, on top of doing your fighting, you have a documentary called On Top.
Yep.
Let's talk about the documentary a little bit. What's tell us a little bit about the documentary.
Yeah, so the documentary is super awesome. It's with this, again, just manifesting and finding like the right story because gosh,
Right,
I'm just full of them. But really being a world champion and what that embodies is what the documentary on top is. So, you'll get pieces, I'm sure you'll figure out like some past lives, but really this documentary really capitalized on saying, hey, being a world champ means
right,
going out somewhere and doing something. I'm I am the first female to go out and defend her belt in another
right,
backyard or another territory and bring it back.
right.
But it really shows what that looked like during that process and the mindset and just, I don't know, so much of my own personal growth. And I feel like really seeing it in that documentary was really cool.
Wow. Yeah. Is there a way that somebody can get that documentary, or is it where's it airing at? How can people watch it?
Right now, I feel like you could go to BrittonHartArmy.com on the website and probably
Right,
get like better, like a link right to it. But
right.
I do know that we were making an exclusive for people that buy the cards because the cards are
Okay,
super, but they give you like one exclusive videos and behind the scenes, but it also gives you the privilege to see things before it drops publicly.
right.
Sorry, I've been kind of like jumbled up on exactly if it's released for the public right now. I'm
Okay,
pretty sure it is, and that you can
yeah.
see it on. But at least part one is. So part two, I think, is just for the card holders right now. But yeah, BrittonHartArmy.com. You'll know. Check out my products there too with Warrior Shield. It's an amazing CBD salve and a lot of other things too with all natural ingredients that really help, with the body's recovery system and healing like a warrior.
Okay.
So you can kind of group those together and check it out while you're there.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you. So, one, I saw the cards. You get some really awesome cards up there. You can
Thank
get them autographed. You got hologram. You got, I mean, there's a ton of different cards out there. Um, so if you go to the BrittonHartArmy.com website, you'll see the different cards. You'll see the Warrior Shield. So no, you have different products for Warrior Shield. What's the different products?
So you have the CBD salve, which is,
Yeah.
the biggest for me, like proud moment with it being
Right.
super effective and functional and just passionate about. But we also have shampoo, conditioner, soap. Um, I think that's honestly it. We keep it simple for you, so
Yeah.
you know
Yeah.
where to get it. But you can get little the travel case is one of my favorites because I'm super passionate about traveling. So you get
Right.
a travel kit where it all comes in there. So I really love that. But the war and then the warrior shield and it has the highest amount of CBD that you can put in it. So it's again really great stuff. And then the trading cards are on there too. So that's really
Right.
honestly getting a one-stop shop for what you really, really need.
Right. Now the other thing it has on there that people might not be aware of is it has a couple of films that you've been in and music videos. So I know that you're dabbling a little bit in music now. Uh, what what kind of brought you to do music?
Really, my friends and family at Lab 111 pushed me to do it. And
Right.
I'm always making these like I always love music and I
Right.
was really big into it. But that was one of the things that had happened. I know people like talk about my voice and stuff a lot, which whatever, but my vocal cords got crushed in 2016.
Well,
So it does make it a lot more difficult to sing and do stuff.
right.
And my voice gives out really easily just from
Mm,
talking.
yeah.
So I kind of like really been down on the whole like I'll never sing again, but I loved it because I used to sing all the time when I was younger. I was in chorus. I did like a bunch of stuff. Like I loved karaoke. I was like
Right.
karaoke queen, freaking
Right.
all the time going out. And so I've really missed it. And even though I sound bad or my voice gives out, it's still like a big part of me. So a lot of people will see like I do the car karaoke a
Right.
lot in my car and love doing that. I'm very expressive in music. Like, anything that I put like from music, like I do everything very like purposely and intentionally. So from my
Right.
walkout songs to on Instagram, the
Right.
song will tell you a lot about how I'm really feeling. Cause I feel like sometimes, especially as public figures, you can't say so much or what you really feel like because so many people are looking at you to be like inspirational or
Right.
and maybe I am. I mean, if the song is about that, like I'm maybe I'm freaking telling myself that or telling somebody else, like
Right.
keep
Right.
going. But I do love music and I think it speaks from your soul. So to
Right.
do this song and they're like they pushed me to do it. They're like, we can help and we can do it like where in small sessions and coaching and stuff like that and it really brought that like such a joyful like again from my soul. I was
Right.
really bummed out. I think that's like my biggest. I mean, there's a lot of things that I can be bummed out about, but um that walkout song not playing in Dubai, like I just need to let it go. I need to let
Right.
it go, move on.
Uh,
It happened. But I'm still really freaking upset. Like, gosh, why? Like, oh, like I dwell on it a lot. But
right.
it was so special, man. It was special. So I hope you guys check it out from at least the house special and just envision like if you were to hear it for the first time, it was me walking out on the cat stage looking super
Right.
cool and I like just imagine that for me because I wanted that so bad.
Right.
Ever it doesn't happen. But the song is cool, it's super fun. I loved it. I think it's catchy. I was already thinking that when I was deciding on walking out to that in Dubai. I was like, look, people are gonna love it and
Right.
say, wow, Britain Hart, what a Britain Hart thing to do. Or
Right.
people are going to be like, damn, it's actually really good and catchy and we do like it. Or
Right.
three, they're going to be like, man, Britain is so corny. What the fuck? Like, hate on me. And I didn't even care. I didn't even care. I was ready
Right.
for if you think it's bad. Guess
Right.
what? I'm telling you now. If you think it's corny or bad, I don't give a flying fuck because
Right.
it makes me smile. Every time I hear the song, I
Right.
literally like laugh. Like I hope it brings you that joy too. Like I
Right.
literally smile and laugh when I hear the song because it is catchy, but it's just a cool song. And if it's just fun. It's fun
Right.
and it would have been nice to walk out to that in Dubai.
Right. Well, you still, fighting. So there may be another opportunity to break. Maybe it was the wrong timing. You know what I mean? And
Yeah, but the song said 4-time champ. Now
uh,
I gotta record it and say
uh,
5-time champ. But it's cool. You're right. I definitely will walk out to that song at one
right.
point in my life. That's for sure.
So with all these people like from bare knuckle going into like I told you about power slap. Have you ever thought about power slap?
Yeah, actually, I got offered a power slap fight once. I was kind of for it, but my team at the time was like, "You stupid, don't you dare!" They're like, "You better have more self-respect for yourself." And I was like, "Damn!" But it kind of made sense. I mean, to me, again, what's it? Again, going back to like the defining chapter of my life. Like, if I
Right.
can get, I've been smacked in the face before, and
Right.
might as well get paid for it. But I do agree with the concept of my team. Like, again, I need to let that version of me go. Like, I'm not struggling and sleeping out of my car
Right.
anymore. I don't
Right.
dig it, unless it's life changing money, then yeah, by all means, I'll reconsider it. But for such
Right.
little money, I don't like have some more self value because it is true. And this was what changed it because I totally think it's cool. And I'm not gonna lie, hater or
Right.
not, I follow and I don't follow very many like
Right.
sports platforms anymore because I'm super busy.
Right.
But I watch and follow Power Slap, and I watch those videos like
Right.
not just one. Most videos I watch one time, one time, one time. But
Right.
those videos I replay and watch. Like I watched the Paige Van Sant Power Slap one with this
Right.
other girl, the thin eyebrows. I've
Yeah.
watched that one like seriously 50 times, and it never gets old. I'm always like, yo, no fucking way. But
Right.
they said, in boxing and MMA, like you train defense, like you block, block,
Yeah.
block. In
Right.
power stop, you never really get the chance to defend yourself. Like you're
Right.
taking that punishment no matter what. So at
Right.
least in boxing and MMA, you have a chance to like not take any damage, which,
Right.
they say the fighter really should be like your number one goal is not to hit someone, but not to be hit and then
Right.
hit. So what do you think about it like that? I'm like, all right, whatever. So I kind of let that whole thing go. But I do think it's very, very cool. Very
Right.
cool. I'm a fan.
I asked Jr. about that too because we have Jr. Ridge on here, and he was the same way. He was like, I don't know that I could stand and just let somebody slap me, because you're so used to as a boxer defending yourself, And I know that when you watch people come over from UFC and you've got people coming from bare knuckle fighting over there, it's you have to retrain yourself. You have to, retrain your mind because again, you got to take the slap. You can't flinch, yeah, and that's tough. You got to be able, you got to be able to hit those. So actually, tonight I have Wolverine is going to be on the show again. So Ron comes on the show all the time too. So we're going to talk to him, but yeah, it's a tough sport. But what I like about it is that the women in that sport are getting as much recognition, almost even more so than the men in that sport. You know,
Yeah,
they're
and
starting to
power.
do
I think there is something, honestly, and just calling it how it is, in my
it.
opinion,
Right,
I do think slapping is more of a feminine thing. So
right, right,
it's like, yo, if a grown man slaps someone, I'd be like, what a bitch. Like, and I mean
right,
that in a nice, like, respectful way.
right,
On the street, like I would really kind of think that's a bitch move. But obviously for the sport, that's what we're
right,
doing, and you have to slap. It's not that you're choosing to be that, that
right,
is the name of the game. But I do think overall that's why the women are getting the more love and attention on there,
right,
because I do think it is a more feminine thing to do. And I think, again, I think it's super cool. Like when you see
right,
girls slap each other's in the face, you're like, oh shit. But oh, to see men slap each other in the face,
right,
I don't know. It's not as cool, but some of them like get really stiff when
right,
because they're way more. And
Right.
so yeah, that's cool. I definitely am a fan of the females in power slap. Like I watch those all the time. But I've met some power slap dudes too that are super cool, and
Yeah.
I really
Yeah.
like them. I've watched like the big guys on there before. There's a
Yeah.
couple guys I've definitely watched on power slap because I was like literally intrigued. But
Right.
yeah, it's, just a a cool thing or
Yeah.
concept for why I think the women are blowing it up there.
This is crazy how data turned into a sport. Yeah. So
It was just
well,
like, well, everyone said, well, that's stupid as shit. Why would you ever
right,
do that? It's pretty fucking big.
right. So what's next for you from here? Do you have any matches coming up or?
Well, I broke my nose in the last fight, so I keep forgetting it because I have like superb healing properties because I'm with Warrior Shield. But
Well,
it is broken.
well,
So I kind of have to forget that because I'm like super rough and tough girl. Like I went to go like scuba dive a couple days ago, and I had nicked my nose. And I was like, oh my nose. And I was like, wait, I don't think I can really scuba dive with my nose being broke. So
well,
I've been kind of taking it easy. It's only been 3 weeks since the fight. Feels like
well,
it's been like 3 months.
well,
But there's a lot of stuff going on in my mind and in my
well,
head per usual, but where to go with it, I have no idea. So I'm like really Alice in Wonderland right now. I'm trying to every day knock out something and be as present as possible. And it's summertime. I've talked about my kids a lot. It's still
well,
like a very, very hard, deep struggle for me, being that we're away and don't have that much time together. So I
well,
keep thinking, again, it's just the same old battle. What I need to, what you kind of reminded me, what would I tell my younger self? So what
well,
would I tell myself in 10 years if I was looking at me now in the car, like, it's all going to work out the way it is.
right,
And so that's what I trust. But they're getting older, which is cool because they have friends and they have activities and they're doing things. Like my son's going to Tokyo for a month, which
oh,
is
well,
so cool as a 15-year-old. So I'd like to
right,
have say I have something to do with that. But I
right,
would like to spend time with them in the summer. So if I'm back in fight camp or something like that, it probably won't be a realistic thing. So
yeah,
who knows? But if someone wants to throw $1 million fight my way, or even 6 digits, like
yeah,
then someone call me tomorrow for a fight with that amount of money. I'd be like, well, the thing is,
right,
let's go.
right. Well, cool. I want to thank you again for being on the show. It was a lot of fun to get to know you and hear your story. And I know that your story inspires a lot of people. Stuff that the things you've gone through, and the successes you've been able to enjoy and create for yourself, since then. So, keep doing what you're doing, and obviously you're always welcome on our show to promote anything you want to bring in, and if your next fight or music or whatever you want to bring in, we would love to have you come back in and let you share with our audience. So
Sweet. Thank you so much. I really enjoy this as well.
cool.
It's cool. Podcasts are like they go full circle because they help people that are watching, helps
Right.
myself talk about it and kind of see and really enjoy talking to you about it and everything too. So thank you for having me on.
Well, I appreciate it. So you guys make sure you go visit BrittonHartArmy.com. And is there any other social media handles that they can find you on, or is it the website?
Team Britain Hart on Instagram. It seems
Mhm.
like as again, it's a free. You don't have to pay for it. Just follow, and I think I'm gonna be better about saying that and kind of like getting that like actual realization out there to these guys that are really working hard and hustling. Like, it doesn't cost anything to follow. And look, if you don't even like my stuff, you can, you can follow people and say that you don't want to see their stuff on the Instagram. Like, if you don't like it or agree with the content or it's boring, whatever. But those follows to, like, I would just encourage small businesses, artists, small artists, starving artists, fighters, athletes. Like, we all get paid and attention based off our followers. So the more followers we have, like, and it sounds so silly and stupid because you see all these things. They're like, don't worry about your followers. Don't worry about this. You keep the grind hustle. But then it sucks when you have these sponsors or other things that are like, oh, well, you need 100,000 followers for us to work with you, pay you this amount of money. So just, again, keep that in mind. I'm going to be an advocate of that for at least for fighters, because it's something so simple. And again, free to do, just to say, hey, if you like that person at one point in time of your life and thought they were hustling, just imagine what you do. You're a number for them for the rest of their life, just because they worked hard that one time. It's so supportive, and how we can help each other grow. But yes, if you follow me on Instagram, that would mean the most to me. I do have like TikTok and Facebook and all that stuff too, but that's more like the fun stuff that I try to do when I have time. But that would be cool. Check out Muscle Meds. It's the highest protein shake and the best protein, world's best protein that you can get. So links on there, and I'm with them. And then Magic Dose as well, which is like a euphoric seltzer, because I've worked in the kava and kratom world. So if you're into that, check that out. It's amazing. And then just as a special shout out for back home is Seriously Awesome Disc. So if you play disc golf, I have a Britain Hart disc golf version you can get and order from them.
Oh, wow. Cool. So, and we follow her on Instagram. Follow her, and don't put that you don't want to see the videos. Make sure you follow her and watch all the awesome stuff she's doing. So, all right, guys. Thank you guys for joining us again. Remember, you guys are uniquely designed with a purpose, and always keep moving forward. Peace.
Oh, cool. I did balloons.